everybody. It's a warm afternoon here. I think it was 94 when I came in. Okay, we're going to talk about calcium and its relationship to anxiety. And the question is, can taking calcium cause more anxiety? And that's a really interesting question because the answer is yes and no. So for people who have not been listening to me before, I know you guys who have already know this, but I'm going to do a quick recap because if we don't, some of the things I say won't make sense. So Dr. Myers realized that many of us suffer from genetic anxiety. He believes that we have a very good genetic variation that causes us to over-respond chemically to stress. Now, this is interesting because all of us respond chemically to stress. Those of us with genetic anxiety over-respond chemically to stress, so we do things that are very harmful to our body because of this chemical over-response. And what he discovered was that the chemical response wants to make sure that it does everything it can to save your life. And one of those things is that it will use up and force out anything that's in conflict with this fight or flight response. So we have certain nutrients in our body which are specifically there in large part to help us get and stay calm. And you can imagine that if your body doesn't care in the moment what it does, as long as it can save you and keep you alive so that it can fix you later, it will get rid of anything. And it's going to get rid of all those calming nutrients. So, and I mean, it'll just force those out like crazy. So, calcium is very critical for many functions in the body. It's critical in our anxiety and getting well from anxiety. It's critical in the contraction and relaxation of your muscles. It's critical for good solid bone structure. It's important for restful sleep. It does many things. And without it, you get all these symptoms because, as we've talked before, symptoms are your body's way of talking, trying to tell you that you need something. So in the Break Free program, we have people take calcium. Now, we do that, we vary it according to weight and age. So we teach you, there's a general amount for most people, but it's adjusted if you're nursing, pregnant, in menopause, over 65, you're going to have a higher need. If you're a little one, because a lot of kids have anxiety, you will probably need less calcium, just because your mass is so much smaller. So you can, a lot of people say, well, I tried calcium and it didn't work. Well, probably you didn't realize that there are many kinds of calcium. And some are highly absorbable and some are not. And one in particular is not only not absorbable, but it's very detrimental to you. And unfortunately, because it's so inexpensive, it's used by many manufacturers. Many companies use it. It's calcium carbonate. There's also dolomite, which is very hard to digest, so you can't pick that up. And there's another one I forgot. Sorry, I didn't put it on my list. That's you just can't digest it, so you can't pick it up. So, but calcium carbonate is really interesting because calcium carbonate is basically what Tums are made out of. And Tums go into your stomach and they pick up the excess acid, whether it's digestive acids or acids from undigested food, interestingly, but that's probably another subject where people have acid indigestion, and it's really because you can't digest your food. So anyway, Tums goes into your stomach and neutralizes the acids or sucks them up, whatever way it works. And then you feel better, but the same thing happens when you take calcium carbonate as your source of calcium. It goes into your stomach and it neutralizes or sucks up the acid in your stomach. Well, calcium needs to be in an acid. It needs to be in an acid to be able to be broken off of your foods. And it also, I think we talked about this before, when you go out of the stomach and into the duodenum where most of your minerals are picked up, well, probably all your minerals are picked up. I think there's some in the small intestine too, but nonetheless, it needs to be a little bit more acid, not as acid as the stomach. So the stomach acids break off the calcium, and then in the duodenum it's less acid, but it still needs to be somewhat acid for your body to be able to pick those up. So if you've taken calcium carbonate, you end up not taking off the calcium out of your foods, and you also tend to not be able to pick it up. And unfortunately, it's not just calcium, it's all the minerals that this is what calcium carbonate will do. So the answer to your question is yes, anxiety or calcium can cause more anxiety, because if you aren't getting your calcium and you aren't getting the other minerals, well, then you're going to be even more deficient than you would be just with anxiety. So it can actually bump up your anxiety. So there's several other kinds of calcium out there that we recommend. We use a calcium hydroxyapatite from a particular manufacturer. And by the way, different manufacturers will make a product and it's not always the same. It may have the exact same name, but it won't necessarily be the same quality. So we use calcium hydroxyapatite because it's very, very absorbable. But there are several other that, let's say you're not using our nutrients. Well, in the program, we give you several other choices, especially if you're in a different country and you can't import the nutrients from the United States. This is really important. So there's other calcium sources which can be very helpful. You want to choose one that is, well, generally, if you add an acid to it, like a citrate, that would be helpful. But there's another one, gluconate. I don't know which. We just found one that's really absorbable for the most number of people, so that's the one we use. And I know if you guys stay on and listen to me, you probably will learn everything you learn in the Break Free program over the next year. If you want to wait a year and figure this all out, and I'm happy to help you with all that. If you're in a rush to feel good again, I would get everything all at once, because it's a huge combo, and we take the combo and we put it together. So it's not just calcium, it's not just the other minerals, it's not just the nutrients that are thrown out. There's all kinds of body balances, body systems balancing we have to do at the same time, and foods that you have to eat, etc., or things that you choose. And so we do a lot of things. Okay. So, let's see. I know this is kind of long. People who drink carbonated beverages generally need more calcium, because there's a phosphoric acid. And Dr. Myers said that after he'd been in practice, let's say 20 years, there were studies that were coming out that girls that were like 12 years old were already having osteopenia. I don't know if they had osteoporosis, but they were showing signs that they were going to have osteoporosis. And a lot of that was coming from this phosphoric acid that is in sodas. And there's also, it's not phosphorus, but something, well, I'm sorry. There are other things that you can ingest which also imbalance things and make it so that you can't pick up your calcium. You'd think with a phosphoric acid that it would be more likely because it's acid that you would pick it up, but it's not true. So you want to really limit your sodas, and if you look on the back of the bottle can at the ingredients, you can look and see, but it tends to be the carbonated beverages, but they don't all have this phosphoric acid in them. So you want to look, if you're going to be drinking them, you want to look and see if you can get sodas that don't have the phosphoric acid. I kind of wonder about all these bubbly waters, but I haven't checked it out. Okay, so now I told you that there's a whole group of minerals that we need. So it's not just the calcium, but they work in concert with each other. So one of the main things is that together with calcium in the right ratios, it will cause muscle relaxation and proper contraction of the muscles. So it's really interesting because, a lot of the symptoms you have are from improper contraction and relaxation of your muscles. So one of the really big ones is the heart muscle. When it's depleted of these minerals, it has a heck of a time beating properly. So you'll get all these missed beats, fluttery beats, all kinds of things. And when you get it back together, then you feel better. And people who have that symptom, which scares them so much, when that quiets down, their anxiety really drops because they're no longer afraid. Plus, it's also this natural calming. This group of nutrients is naturally calming, and it affects those people who have trouble swallowing because they've got a lot of muscle tension in here that closes up and they feel choking, and it's really scary for them. Plus, they get a lot of it can create tons of tension in the neck, and you can actually track where the muscles go by how painful it is if you feel when you have a tension headache. And also, oh my goodness, Jody, I can't go into all that right now because this is taking way over the time that I'm supposed to. They're all in the program, but we'll, eventually we'll hit them all and explain why they're needed. Okay, so the traps become involved and we get those awful headaches. We might get one in one eye, then it throws your neck out and you may need to get adjusted. Maybe you need to get adjusted way too often because you just have this tension all the time and it pulls it in out. As I said, you need these nutrients in certain ratios. So Jody, it would be more individual for you. We teach people how to figure out what's right. There's kind of a common amount for people, but depending on what happens and how you respond, we might up one of the nutrients because you might need more of one. And we kind of do that by how your body responds and the symptoms you have. And again, if you're pregnant, nursing, in menopause, or past age 65, you're going to need more. And one of the other things is for people who have trouble swallowing pills, we have smoothie recipes in the program. And what we did is we made sure that the supplements that we chose, particularly these minerals, we checked to make sure that you could open the capsule and pour it in something that would mix well. And so that way it's easier to digest. And if you don't, sometimes people have trouble digesting capsules, but if you're one of those people that has trouble swallowing and you open those capsules and put them in a smoothie or juice or applesauce or yogurt or something like that, then it's much easier to swallow and it doesn't frighten you so much. So that's another thing. I've had, I was always the guinea pig for a lot of this stuff in the clinic, and sometimes I would order tester supplements from different companies, And I am telling you, some of them were so choking. Some of them were like trying to swallow pieces of chalk. They were hard and they got stuck. And so it's really important to choose ones that will be easy to digest and easy to open and dissolve into something. You know, you can just blend them up and they don't sink to the bottom. That's another thing. Certain supplements sink to the bottom. So you drink your smoothie or your glass of juice or whatever, and you look and here's all the supplement at the bottom. Chances are that one isn't going to be really highly digestible because it didn't melt, so to speak, while you were doing all this stuff to the smoothie. But anyway, we see those things. So that's why I tested everything before we put anything in the program, because there's just so many things. And we got stinky companies that manufacture really cheap stuff, and people don't know the difference. So if they go out and sell it, I mean, there are major companies out there that are still selling the calcium carbonate, which is actually worse than taking nothing. So if you guys have any questions, I didn't mean to go so long, but calcium is kind of complex, but it's so incredibly important for you. And when you mix it with all the things that you need, it's extremely helpful. Here's a little tip, by the way. If you're having a period and you women are cramping, take like 250 milligrams of calcium every hour for a while, and see if your cramps don't go away. If you've got the right kind of calcium, it's extremely helpful. My mother taught me that when all of us girls were in our teen years, and it's been true today. So anyway, I'm off for the day. I will be back on Friday. Again, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below, and I will talk to you soon. You guys have a wonderful week. Bye.